This from Gary to open up the show. Gary gave me his resume when he wrote me. He said he's a big accountant from a huge accounting firm. Thank you for that, Gary. Kevin, are you trying to tell me that an additional $5 million per year, and he writes in parentheses, 25 team offered, would probably Terry would probably accept 30. That's what he's implying anyway. Are you trying to tell me that an additional $5 million per year for a franchise that is worth closer to $8 billion now than the $6 billion they paid for it wouldn't be worth it? Super Bowl contention versus no Super Bowl contention seems like the biggest example of penny wise, pound foolish I can remember this franchise being a part of. Thank you for that, Gary. I first of all, I think the team, because of the Lakers sale of $10 billion, I think the team is probably worth closer to $8 billion than it is the $6 billion they paid for it. Remember, in the moment 2 years ago, it seemed like maybe an overpayment, even though I think everybody said that you can't overpay for an NFL franchise. They just keep going up, and they're going to keep going up, especially in the future when the NFL allows private equity, when they allow foreign money, et cetera. It's going to be worth even more. So that is interesting. And I think I've mentioned it recently that it's becoming, a little bit more evident that they got themselves a franchise that's worth a lot more money today than it was 2 years ago. And maybe a lot more. I don't know if it's $8 billion. I mean, Gary's the big accountant from the huge accounting firm. And he might be better at putting values on this. But when the Lakers sold for $10 billion, that had to elevate NFL franchises even more than they've already been elevated. Look, back to Terry, which is the point of Gary's email. I agree with you to a certain extent that, a couple of $1 million per year, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is, 15 to 20 million of extra money for a franchise that's worth so much that generates, 400 to 500 million a year in revenue, or somewhere in that neighborhood. The Packers, had their numbers because they're publicly traded. So everybody kind of learned what the media dollars were per team and what their, other revenue was worth. I think they were a $440 million top line business. I think that's what it was. Anyway, I just don't think that that's what they're thinking about, because I think they don't want to set some sort of precedent of overpaying in their estimation by a lot. And I understand that sentiment. You can't be the franchise that people line up for to get overpaid. But I don't know that if Terry were 27, we wouldn't be having this conversation. If Terry was, numbers wise, a better overall performer, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It's a combination of both of those things. I get it. Like, simplistically, it's like, really? You can't come up to 30 for crying out loud for a guy like that in a season in which you think you can contend for a Super Bowl, and without him, you're probably not a Super Bowl contender. Every situation is different. You have to treat each situation differently. I get it. But what Terry's asking for 33, which is too much for him, period. And the team offered, let's just say that Jeremy Fowler last week was correct, 25, and that's too low. Splitting the difference would be $29 million a year. Is Terry going to take something less than 30? Diana and others have said he's not going to accept anything that doesn't start with a 3 in terms of average annual. Yeah, I think there's so much about this, obviously, that we don't know, including just what the relationship with team and agent is and how that's been impactful in some way, if it has been. Yeah, I can't answer. I mean, from my standpoint, you guys know what I think of Terry. I've never felt the way about Terry the way many of you have felt about Terry, but I like him. I like him a lot. I want him to be on this team this year, which he's going to be this year. I think they need him if they're going to make a run. I just have over the years, I mean, this isn't just recently, even before last year, I just have never thought of Terry as, a game changer at the position. I just think he's really, really good and really, really important for this team, too. They don't have a replacement for him, obviously. And I think the team, in establishing what they want to be as an organization, culturally, which includes kind of how they compensate, I just don't think they want to be a mark. And that could be short-sighted in this season. Look, if they were 6-11, 7-10 last year, even if they were very promising offensively, like it was, you could see it's coming, it's going to be there. I don't think people would be as animated about this, and maybe Terry would feel like he were in a different position. Terry's very little leverage, deals with the emotional side and the piece that says the team is in a Super Bowl window of 2025, 2026 with Jaden on a rookie deal. You're right. Big picture, it looks like peanuts, compared to what they generate and what their profitability is and what their value is organizationally. I understand all those things, but it's not the way you conduct business. You don't just willy-nilly start throwing around contracts that in your own estimation are 20 to 30% higher than what they should be. And I think that's where they are now. Again, beating a dead horse here. Two things, for them. One, he's under contract. Two, it actually, if they aren't worried about 2027 in terms of what Terry might be in 2027 as a then entering that season 32-year-old, then it actually makes more sense financially. And that can't be the only way you make this decision. But to pay him what he's going to earn this year, and then to decide whether or not to tag him next year, and if they don't, there's a little bit of dead cap money in 2026. I can't imagine that after this upcoming season, Terry's not going to be a player that you're going to want back for 2026, but they would have the flexibility to make that decision on whether or not they want to use the tag. By the way, because you don't come to an agreement this summer, before this upcoming season, doesn't mean that you can't reach an agreement after the season begins, during the season at some point, or next off season. The idea that if you don't get a long-term contract done now, it won't happen, that's not true. Is it less likely to happen when the season starts? Perhaps. At that point, maybe Terry's, thinking they're going to have to make that decision on $28.6 million in a tag next offseason, or I'm going to be in free agency off of a hopefully even better season than I had this year. Maybe it's 85 catches. Maybe it's 1,200 yards. Maybe it's 13 touchdowns again. That's a lot of touchdowns, but something that's, in double digits. But it doesn't preclude, like there are no rules against extending a player once the season, has begun. Like that can happen, and it certainly can happen next off season. Although Terry at that point has more leverage, right? Because it's tag me for 28.6 because I'm not under contract, or I hit the open market. As, by the way, a receiver that will be heading into his age 31 season. Yeah. So, all right, there you go. This from Sean. Sean writes, man, you were backpedaling on Shadur Sanders yesterday. He was great, and people already, justifiably so, are regretting what they said about him heading into the draft. Thanks for that, Sean. I have no idea what you're talking about, backpedaling, unless I said, and I don't even remember what I said, but I'll say it now. It's embarrassing, actually, the response to Shadur Sanders in the performance the other night. I mean, it's a preseason game. Are you kidding me? I mean, he's playing against guys that, for the most part, yes, it was starting the football game. And I'm not going to go back and break down all of the Carolina Panthers starters versus non-starters, but mostly it was non-starters in the game for a big part of it. He played well for a preseason game, 14 of 23, 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. The fawning over him, oh my God, you're going to regret what you said after one preseason game is honest. It's embarrassing. People should be embarrassed when they go public with those kind of comments after a preseason game. By the way, you might be right, Sean. You might be right, but it's not because of what happened against the Carolina Panthers on August 8th or August 7th or whatever night it was. Come on, people. Stop. I mean, why don't we go back and talk about Tanner McKee's performance the other night against the Bengals, against the first team starting Bengals in the first half. Tanner McKee for the Eagles was 20 of 25 for 252 and 2 touchdowns. Passer rating of 135.3. I don't even know if they do QBR numbers for preseason games. I don't think they do. They don't, actually. ESPN does not produce the QBR number for preseason games. That makes sense. Who wants to see that number in a preseason game? But why don't we spend 20 minutes on Tanner McKee and how teams blew it on Tanner McKee, picking him in the 6th round of the 2023 draft? By the way, every chance he's gotten, he's looked good. Remember, he played a game last year against the Giants at the end of the regular season for the Eagles because they sat everybody to rest him, and he had a phenomenal football game. I mean, come on, Sean. Stop, man. I watched the reaction, the national media reaction to Shadur Sanders. I get it. He was the story going into the draft. He was one of the stories of college football in 2024 and one of the sensational stories, along with his father, obviously, in the early portion of 2023. It was fun watching Colorado early in 2023 and at times last year as well. You know, they had a good season last year, and he was a very good college quarterback. My personal view was he's not a first-round pick. I didn't think he was a 5th-round pick, but I didn't think he was a first-round pick. My biggest problem with watching Shadur Sanders was just how often, and I know the offensive line was a mess in 2023, understood, but how often he held on to the ball, didn't see it, didn't process it, it would appear, and took, so many big lost yardage sacks. And the other night, though, apparently the ball was zipping. It was coming out early in a preseason game against the Panthers. Okay. I mean, anybody that is honestly out there talking about Shadur Sanders and the mistake that everybody made. Somebody was talking about the other night being Mel Kiper Jr.'s greatest moment because Kiper Jr. loved Shadur. Remember the show that it turned into on night 1 and night 2 of the draft. Kiper is a huge Shadur fan. I doubt that even Mel Kiper felt great about what happened the other night. I don't think he was declaring victory after a preseason game. I mean, people are so starved for the NFL. There's no doubt about that. And I would bet you that in NFL circles, all of the hand-wringing and excitement and dejection over these preseason games is a great thing in the NFL offices. It's like, look at our product. I mean, people are actually taking this stuff seriously. I mean, this is the worst stuff anybody puts out. And yet our fans and our media take it very seriously. They actually think it means something, despite years and years and years of evidence that it doesn't. And by the way, has become almost, increasingly worthless in terms of how you can, take what you're seeing here and put it into the regular season. Shadur Sanders may end up being a great quarterback. He may end up being great. Nobody ever knows with the quarterbacks, right? I mean, they get picked in the first round, they get picked in the second round. We just never know. Um, unless you're all over Jaden Daniels early. Kidding. Shadur Sanders might be great, but it's not going to be because of what happened against Carolina. It's just, that's not why. And by the way, the stories coming out of Cleveland is they're not ready to start him yet. I don't know. They play the Eagles on Friday night, I think, or Saturday night this week. Maybe it'll be starters. I don't even know what Cleveland's planning on doing. I would imagine if they take the media's advice and fans' advice that Shadur not only should be starting, actually he should be sitting. You don't want to hurt him, get him hurt for the season opener on September 7th against Cincinnati. Yeah, the reaction to Shadur Sanders and his performance seemed to be, I don't know, a bit over the top like Sean's was. All right. I want to talk about the idea that we all have, and it's not just because of what you're seeing this time of year, which again can be incredibly misleading, but it's because of how you felt about the player last year or because of how you felt about the player when he got signed by the team in free agency, or it's about the player and how you felt about the player when he got drafted. I want to know the player you've been telling your friends when you have conversations about our team and the season upcoming. There's somebody that you guys have said that guy's going to have a big season. And maybe it's a surprise season, maybe it's a breakout season, but you're confident in a specific player having a big season upcoming. I have one in particular. And by the way, it can't be Jaden Daniels, okay? Unless you just want to say he's going to be the MVP. I'm 100% convinced of it. He's going to throw for 4,000, he's going to rush for 1,000, whatever. I do have a player in mind. I have alluded to this player a few times, but I feel really confident about one player in particular having a big season this year. It may not be a super big surprise, but there is, I think, varying opinion. There's opinion both sides that they either got it right on him or they didn't get it right on him. So 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. The player that in conversations about the team with friends or anybody, you've been saying that guy's going to have a big year. I really feel like this guy's on the verge of having a huge season. And it could be like the breakout season for the player, or it could be, a comeback season for a player, or it just could be a lot better of a season than the player had last year. 301-230-0980. I've got somebody in mind. Max is going to give me and give you guys his player. I want to know the player that you've been telling your friends and others as you talk about this team that you've been saying this guy's going to have a big year. 301-230-0980. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show. We are on the Team 980, theteam980.com. And I do want you to know that all of our training camp talk brought to you by Odyssey Sports Training Camp coverage, brought to you by Geico. Switch and save. Get more with Geico. Talk on the Team 980 is presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com. That's ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. So the question at 301-230-0980 is, give me the player that when you're having conversations about your favorite football team, the Washington football team, Redskins, Skins, Commanders, WFT, give me the player that keeps coming up as a player that you think is going to have a big season. Look, Jaden Daniels is pretty much going to be uniform, but it's more of that sneaky, this guy, trust me, big season from him. Might be a breakout season from a player who hasn't had a great season yet. I'm going to give you my guy. I've mentioned him a few times. I feel like Deebo Samuel's going to have a big year in Washington. I think the fit is perfect with the best quarterback he will have played for and played with during his career, an outstanding coordinator, a creative coordinator. Not that he's not used to that, because he had that, obviously, with Kyle Shanahan. With a team that, likes to be dynamic, likes to be multiple, and I think has big ideas for him. It's a contract year for Deebo Samuel. He is capable of very high-level football. He is an absolute beast with the ball in his hands when he's healthy. It's impossible for one guy to get him to the ground. He will generate unbelievable yards after contact. I think they're going to try to get him the ball early and often. It's not a force feed a number one wide receiver deal. It's a force feed your best weapon deal. Deebo has a chance to be their best weapon on offense. He's got to be healthy, and he has been banged up. And the thing about him is he plays banged up, and he'll have more incentive to play banged up. Now, apparently he is reported in some of the best shape he's been in the last few years. I just think that this is going to make Adam Peters and company look really good. And by the way, create a really interesting offseason conversation about what Deebo is worth and whether or not you can keep him here rather than having him go to free agency. So Deebo is my guy. I've got other guys too. I've mentioned Daron Payne. I mean, I'm a big Daron Payne fan in terms of his talent. By the way, I wanted to mention last year when we did this segment, because I went back and looked at some of my notes, other than Jaden Daniels, my guy was Brian Robinson Jr. Before the season started, I was really high on B-Rob having a big season because of the quarterback. I thought, with a dual threat and a dual threat attack, that Brian Robinson Jr. would feast with Jaden Daniels as his quarterback. There were health issues. He had some games, but it was not the season, obviously, that I thought it would be this time last year. So I was dead wrong last year, with my Brian Robinson Jr. But Deebo's the guy. When I've had conversations, and many of them now, especially this time of year, about the team, I talk about Deebo. I think Deebo's going to have a big 2025 as a Washington Commander. Again, there are some other players that I've thought about, but nobody that I'm as confident, because offensively, I feel more confident about the offense than I do anything defensively. Feel more confident about Jaden and Cliff more than anything else right now. And I just think that they're going to use him in ways in which he's going to feast. It would be better for him to have a healthy and happy Terry McLaurin. I think he's going to have a healthy Terry McLaurin on the field with him on September 7th. I think that they will really impact each other in terms of, you got two players, two weapons on the field. Deebo's a unique weapon, though. Deebo's my guy. 301-230-0980. The guy you've been telling your friends about, this guy's going to have a big season. My guy is Deebo. Max, what about you?
So I've got a couple guys. They're all on the defensive side of the football, which is very.
I want your number one guy.
All right.
I want you, and hold back the others, and if we don't hear them from
will
from
do.
callers.
Well, I know that this one guy keeps popping up on the callers, and he was the first guy that came to mind. And he's shown the ability to retool, get better throughout the season, learn during the season as opposed to going into the offseason, getting better, looking at film. He can do that during and throughout like a playoff run. It's Mike Sainer still. He's just last year he was so serviceable and just the versatile. We could move him around, put him on the outside. Like he had to go up against Jamar Chase in week 3. So like his feet got put to the fire pretty early. And I think that experience is going to do him, or it did him some good last year, just being able to learn and grow throughout the season, as opposed, like I said, to just having to retool into an off season. So I'm going to plant my flag, and it's going to be Mike Sainer still.
That's fine. I think you need to go further, though, if you're going to say Mikey Sainristil. I think you have to say Mikey Sainristil is going to be a Pro Bowl cornerback this year for the team. Because I don't think there's a lot of debate about what he was last year, and I don't think there's a lot of debate about how good he's going to be for this team this year. I think if you're going to choose, if you're having conversations with your friends and you're like, you know who's going to be really good this year? Sainristil. Because if I'm having that conversation with you, I'm like, yeah, he was really good last year too. But then you would say, no. I'm talking about this guy's going to be a Pro Bowl cornerback in the NFC. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's if you're going to use Sainristil, you got to take it. If you're going to use Sainristil, if you're going to use Jaden, you got to take it to a point in which people aren't thinking about that. Maybe some people are thinking about Mikey Sainristil as a Pro Bowl corner. He had a very good rookie season. And the thing about Sainristil is quality everywhere. Smart, intuitive, instinctive. He has great communication ability. He's going to be a big-time leader in this league on that side of the ball. So are you willing to go to Pro Bowl level?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
With everything that Mikey showed last year, I've been really high on, like you said, his leadership potential and just that experience that he had at Michigan of playing receiver.
Will he do it as a slot corner or as an outside corner?
He'll do it as a slot corner. I think that one of the other guys I have on this list that nobody has mentioned on the calls yet is rookie Trey Amos, because everything I've heard out of his camp has been incredible. And I think he's going to be a really solid piece going forward at the outside corner spot.
Chad in Nashville, kick it off. The guy that you've been telling your friends about is going to have a big season. Go ahead.
Well, I agree with Sainristil. And of course, Debo. Anytime you have the caliber player of Debo in a contract year, you're going to get, hopefully that type of play. I try to think out of the box, and I had to, but you said pick one. Okay. I'm going to go Quan Martin. And if we got to go as far as you're saying Max has got to go, you know what? I'm going to say it. I think Quan Martin's going to be a Pro Bowl. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowl safety this year. The caliber of teams we're going to go against is going to be, higher than last year. He's going to have a chance to show what coaches like in him. I think our front seven is going to be better than last year because it's also a second year in the system. Plus, I think Von Miller is going to help out the pass rush a lot.
I have a feeling he's going to also.
Think he is.
Yeah.
I
think he's going to also.
And if that's the case, your secondary should play better. Now, you don't have Jeremy Chin. Quan Martin, who's the guy they signed?
Will Harris.
Help me out, Kevin. From Will Harris. I think Quan Martin has a chance to be their best safety on the team.
So the other night, Chad, the other night, I had Johnny Newton on my podcast after the game from Foxborough, from the locker room. I asked him basically the question that I'm asking you guys. His answer was Quan Martin. He said, Quan Martin's going to be the guy that really, I think he said, shocks a lot of people in terms of how good he is.
Yes.
So I thought that was an interesting answer. Sometimes they don't answer that question. He immediately said Quan Martin. Interesting.
I didn't listen to that podcast, and, I'm glad I said it. I wanted to say Luke McCaffrey, but that seems like I'm a little concerned. I was like before. I've been telling all my friends, "Hey, watch." They bring up McCaffrey because it's his little brother. I said, "No, watch. He's not going to be looked at. He was open a lot last year. He should get the ball more, but something's missing. You've talked about it before, and that's why I didn't bring it up. I'm 50-50.
Well, you did bring it up. So you just brought it up.
Well, yeah.
See, you snuck in your number 2 after Quan Martin. Good job, Chad. Good job. Let me get on to another call. Appreciate it. Anthony in D.C., who's the guy that you've been telling your friends this guy's going to have a big 2025?
So if the defensive line holds up like we anticipate or hope that it will, I think it's going to be Louisville.
Anticipate and hope are two different things. Which is it?
Well,
it can be both. Okay.
I think it's some of both because the people that they brought in, you have expectations of them.
Right.
But
all right, go ahead.
On what we had last year, you got to hope. So, yeah, I believe it's Louisville because he's the closest thing we have to Micah Parsons. If Micah Parsons is a 10, then Louisville was probably a 7. So if we get the defensive line to perform like that and Witt can use them in the same way, then I expect a big year. But Kevin,
look, he was a second-team All-Pro last year, Anthony. Second-team All-Pro. He had a great season last year. And so you're going to take it a step further, and he's going to end up, with double-digit sacks, be a Pro Bowler, and an All-Pro again?
Yes.
I think he could. He's their most talented player defensively, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can I address one more thing before you let me go? So over the course of time, I've heard you describe, what you think Terry is and Terry isn't.
Right.
But I gotta remind you, your evaluation of players isn't all that good.
Yeah, go ahead. Give me the whole list. I'm sure you have it.
If you think about it, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Sua Cravens.
I didn't say anything about Sua Cravens. I didn't have an opinion. I didn't have a strong opinion about Sua Cravens.
Okay. Josh Dotson.
Yes.
And there's one more I can't.
You have to start with Josh Doxson. You got to start with Doxson because Chase Young was the number 2 pick in the draft. Montez Sweat was a big-time prospect and still is a good player.
I would just call them out in no particular order, but those are the names that came to mind.
I would start in auditing my player evaluations. I would start with Josh Doxson. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate that. Lap in DC, Lap, what player in your conversations with friends are you saying this guy's going to have a huge year?
Hey, what's up, Kevin?
Hey,
shout out to Mad Max. Hey, I'm gonna say, don't forget Kirk Cousins. That's your guy. You love some Kirk Cousins.
Oh, I've gotten a couple right. Not many, just a couple. Yeah.
No, I just had to
because I wasn't a big fan of Jaden Daniels, I guess. In 2023,
no. You picked that one. You picked that one right on the money because we both were talking about him last year.
Doxson's the one that I fell in love with, man, because my kid was at TCU and he was a great college receiver. And I thought, wow, they got themselves a great receiver. And obviously, is he even in the league anymore? I don't even think he's in the league, is he?
Oh, you talking about the other Dotson, not the one that we just traded. You talking about the one that
Jahan Dotson I liked, but let's be honest. Kyle Hamilton, I was screaming for them to take Kyle Hamilton in that draft. So that was another one. I mean, one of the very few that I've gotten right. Is Doxson? Doxson's not in the NFL anymore. He hasn't been in the NFL in a few years. Wow.
Yeah.
He was
he did show flashes though.
He was a super nice kid, but very, very much one of those didn't necessarily love football guys. You know who nailed that early? Cooley came back after one of those early practices and said, "I don't know about your guy Doxson." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "I think he's homesick. He doesn't really love football. He doesn't really like being here." There was a lot of issues just right from the jump in 2016, right? I think so. Anyway, give me your player, Lap. Lap. Oh, we lost Lap? Lap was going to say Jalen Lane, right?
Yes, that was his player.
That's what you put on. Yeah. I was thinking a lot of people would have Jalen Lane. Chris in Virginia. Chris, go ahead.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
What's up, Chris?
The player that I got. What's going on? The player that I've got for y'all today, the man with two last names, is Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Man,
AKA
when I
Bill.
tell you, Bill, that's our guy. I'm trying to tell everyone that I can tell. We have a lot of talk about Terry and about how our offense might be impacted, and it definitely will be if he's disgruntled or not playing or whatever the case may be. Our run game might be something that shocks a lot of people this year. The line is upgraded. I mean, the run protection from our line isn't like the greatest thing on the planet, but with the committee that we have between B-Rob, Eckler, and Bill, and then you sprinkle in Debo with the flare screens, I think we are really well equipped to do a lot of things that we weren't doing last year. And Ja'Cory himself, his burst is unbelievable. Don't be surprised by if year 2 he's the head of the running back committee for us. Like, don't be surprised by that. And the other person I was going to say really quickly, it was already mentioned, but Trey Amos, that is a dog. That is a dog. I promise you. So our secondary, I mean, I used to pray for times like this when we had Benjamin St. Juste lining up to guard whoever the hell it was. And now we've got Trey Amos. We've got the rest of the crew going in there. I'm excited, man. I'm excited, but more than anything, we need to sign Terry. So that's all I've got for y'all.
Thanks. By the way, somebody reminded me of this. They sent me a long email, and I'm looking for it as you were talking. When Benjamin St. Juste got picked, went to Minnesota, right? Benjamin St. Juste was the Minnesota quarterback. People after the draft were raving about how Washington got a steal in Benjamin St. Juste. And then during that first rookie summer, this guy reminded me of multiple tweets and multiple things said about Benjamin St. Juste during the summer. Big, closes gap, doesn't have to run 4.3 because of his size and his arm length. There was a lot of positive vibes about St. Juste coming out and then over the summer. Where is he now? Is he a Charger?
Yes, he is a Los Angeles Charger. And right. Chargers fans are not pleased so far.
Well, yeah, because the preseason means much. Back to our last caller's pick. That was another one. I thought Krosky Merritt Bill, a.k.a. Bill, would be a popular answer to this question. He is dealing with a shoulder injury right now. I wonder if that will keep him out of the game on Monday night. I would also suggest this. Although with running backs, sometimes the reason they're not on the field is the other stuff, not the running, the pass protection, etc. But running backs, if they are like extremely talented and it's like so obvious that they're going to be a starting running back in the league, they're not off the field. They're not kept off the field. He'll play. It's not a year 2 breakout. It could be. I'm not saying that running backs don't break out in year 2. But on teams that actually are looking for a player at that spot, if the guy is truly all that, he's going to play. There's no reason other than he isn't getting the offense. He's really weak in pass pro. That can keep guys off the field, no doubt about it. All right, let's take a break, but I see everybody on hold. We also have a line open if you want to jump on. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Give me the player that when you're having conversations about our team, you say, this guy's going to have a huge year. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. Don't forget, you can watch the show on our Team 980 YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button and hit the like button when you get there.
All right, here's what's happening on this Wednesday, August 13th. Bills two-time Pro Bowler James Cook ends his hold-in with signing a 4-year, $48 million extension that includes $30 million guaranteed. Some other NFL news, Jordan Love underwent thumb surgery on his non-throwing hand. Packers say he'll still be good to go for week 1. And Vikings wide receiver Rondale Moore suffered his second season-ending injury in as many years. The dynamic punt returner suffered an injury to his left knee in Viking preseason game versus Houston on Saturday. And the Nats, they fall to the Kansas City Royals by a score of 8-5. Mitch Parker with a less than stellar performance, only giving up 2 hits, but walked 3 at some critical moments, and the Royals made him pay with 5 earned runs. Early start for the Nats today as they look to avoid the sweep. First pitch at 2:10. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 1:40. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1, and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the stream and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Who's the person you are saying when talking about your favorite team? Who's the person you're saying is going to have a big year? My guy's Debo. I think Debo's going to have a big year. I think it's a contract year for him. He appears to be healthy and in shape. And I just think the Cliff Jaden combination and what they'll do with him offensively is going to be big. He is capable of being, at times, a dominant weapon. Let's not forget that. It's been a while, understood. But he has the ability to be a dominant weapon. And I think in this scheme, with this quarterback, with this coordinator, with Terry on the field, because they'll benefit from each other's presence. I think Debo is my guy. I have a couple of other guys that I thought about, but Debo's the first guy that came to mind. Anyway. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Who's your guy? Max's guy is Mikey Sanderstill. He's predicting a Pro Bowl season for Mikey. Let's go to Kevin in Warrenton. Kevin, go ahead.
What's up, Kevin? Hey, first I want to thank Max for taking my call. I don't understand why callers thank you when you're not the one that actually takes the call.
Exactly. I don't take the call. Good point.
Yeah. All right. So this is going to be wildly unpopular, but I honestly believe you were a year off. I think everyone's been talking about this new offensive line and what that's going to mean to Jade Daniels. And I think it's going to mean as much to the running game. I think Brian Robinson is going to go off. I think Debo's going to keep the field wide the way Cliff likes to spread things out. There's going to be huge running lanes, and I think the coaching staff still believe in him. I mean, he was the first guy on the field in that scrimmage versus the Patriots, and there was huge holes.
Yeah.
And I know it's a scrimmage.
I do think they still believe in him. I think that's a really good
him.
point that you just made.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't believe in him, we would have seen a running back taken much earlier, I think, in the draft. But go ahead.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm expecting 1,200 yards, double-digit touchdowns.
That was my prediction last year.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're a year off, and no one's talking about it. So, we'll see. But yeah, Brian, he's my guy.
He's got to be available. When he's available, he's got to be healthy. What did he miss? 2 or 3 games last year? There were a couple of other games he was banged up. He had a couple of key fumbles last year, right? The fumbles came in that Eagle game that they won, right, Max? Yeah. I think it was. Didn't he fumble twice in that game? Was it twice in that one game?
I believe that sounds right. I remember the turnover issue was a lot.
2 lost fumbles in that 36-33 win over the Eagles. He was 10 carries, 24 yards. You know, he had a very good game against Detroit in the postseason. Very good game against Detroit. Big bounce back game because remember, they had no ability to run the football in that game against Tampa at all. I mean, even Jaden struggled to run the football against Tampa in that first playoff game. But Kevin, good call. That's a good one. Like that one, I don't think anybody is thinking Brian Robinson Jr. And sometimes it is more of a veteran player. Like Debo, to me, I think that conversation is polarizing. I think some people think that was a great signing, and others are like, this guy's done. He's been injured. He can't stay on the field, etc. Let's go to Bones. Bones, who's your guy, the guy that you've been saying to everybody he's going to have a big season?
Man, shout out to my main man, Matt, man. You know, we both think alike. Great minds think alike. My guy is Mikey Sanders still,
You and
man.
Kevin, great minds. Paulie and I, average minds think alike. Yes.
Yeah, Mikey Sanders still is going to turn this joint out, man. I'm telling you, man. Watch what I see. Watch what I tell you, man. I saw it last year, and he's mature, and he's going to take it up. He's going to take it to, hey, he bringing the smoke this season, Kevin. Watch what I tell you, man. Hey, man, thanks, man. I appreciate y'all,
all right,
man.
Bones.
Peace.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Like, they really – Sanders still had a phenomenal rookie season. And I think everything else about him, you know, going back to what Nick Saban said about him, the best player pound for pound in the 2024 draft. You know, we saw the big plays that he had made for Michigan en route to a national championship. He's smart. He is got the intangible stuff, and then he's so instinctual on the field. He's a competitor, all of those things. I think it's going to be interesting to see what develops on the outside, because that'll dictate whether or not they can move him to the spot that they drafted him to play. I think they drafted him to be the slot corner, to be the nickel slot corner, and he would be outstanding at that. He was very good at what he did last year, but it was out of necessity. Let's go to Jeremy in Baltimore. Jeremy, give me the guy that when you and your friends are talking about our team, you say this guy is going to have a big season. Go ahead.
I'll get to that, but I first got to give a shout out to Benjamin St. Juste. I mean, is there anything more depressing than going through a Rolodex of players and just thinking about how they didn't work out? Was he the best, worst corner you've ever seen? I mean, how many times was he in position, like good coverage, and still got beat? It was mind-boggling to me. But anyways, my answer to your question was going to be Mikey. Besides the fact of being an elite talent, it's going to be hard for him to distinguish himself out of the nickel. But I'm really liking what I see from Trey Amos. I just think he has the look, right? Like, if you're a Maryland basketball fan, if you remember LaRon Profit, I mean, he looked the part, like the body, the swag, the movement. It just seems like he's gonna fill into that role. And if he becomes a bona fide starter for us right now on the depth chart, they're showing him as the number one. That's a huge pickup, especially if Lattimore doesn't come back, which I actually think Lattimore is going to going to come back. Can I make one last point?
Yep.
Last point. I have been so excited since week 3 of last year about the Commanders when we had that breakout game against Cincinnati. The vibes have been so positive. The vibes aren't that positive anymore, man. T-Mac is killing my vibe. And I don't know if it's T-Mac or his second-rate agent, buddy, whoever the hell he is, whose biggest clients are only him and Jeremy Chin, who doesn't know what he's doing, tested the market, and the market's saying, hell no, brother. But, dude, come on, man. You are not a 30-plus million receiver. Sign the deal at 28. Come in or don't. You got to come anyways, and then we'll tag you anyways, and then we'll let you walk. But, man, it's killing the vibe, isn't it, for you a little bit?
Not
That
really.
Terry's-
As you were
this whole
saying that, and I think
situation-
I've mentioned this before,
okay.
it's not killing it for me because I guess maybe I'm just being practical and realizing he's going to be there. Now, I do feel like it would be better if he were in camp now than showing up on, Tuesday or Wednesday of Labor Day week before the opener against the Giants, but it's not killing the vibe for me. I'm not saying that it's not for a lot of people, including yourself. I agree with you. I don't think he's anywhere near worth what he thinks he's worth. And I wish that they would get, a bit of reality and get down close to where the team is so the team can come up. I also think the team's offer, if it's true at $25 million a year, is too low. But yeah, it's not killing the vibes for me. It's actually an interesting question, though. I'm writing this one down because sometimes in your answers, you create ideas for segments. Because I have a feeling that you're not alone on that.
One last point. One last point.
Yeah.
One last point. I cannot stand when people refer to the rookie deal window. That's our only chance to win a Super Bowl.
It's not.
What
It's the
happens
first.
when we give
it's the first
$70
window,
million
and it's
a year?
a unique window.
No, but listen. Well, the last time a team won a Super Bowl on a rookie deal was 2019. It doesn't happen all that.
I know. Brock Purdy got injured in the
now?
NFC
It's
title game, a
15
game they were
years.
favored in. Let's not forget that.
Fair
They were
enough,
down to
but
their
we
third.
have a
Christian McCaffrey was
15-year
taking
window.
snaps at quarterback.
If we don't have Terry this year, is not the same as if the Eagles don't have AJ Brown this year. The Eagles will still be a bona fide Super Bowl contender. Let's be honest, guys. This roster ain't all that great. I can make an easy argument that we could have lost 11 games last year if things didn't fall the right way.
Not 11.
I don't
Not
believe
11. You're
that
exaggerating
we're going to
now.
be.
But what's the reason that you didn't
maybe 9,
lose
10.
9 instead of 5? That reason is the cheat code at quarterback, and he's back. I got to run. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it, Jeremy. Everybody else on hold, stay there. Casey, Billy, Bobby, Paulie, Oscar, Chris, Ian. Who's the player that you're telling your friends is going to have a big season in 2025 for our team, Washington? Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, and the team980.com. This summer, your air conditioning has been working overtime to keep your house cool and comfortable. If you're ready to change that, I recommend calling Window Nation. Replace those old or builder-grade windows with custom-built high-quality windows from Window Nation. Window Nation measures 3 times to ensure your windows fit perfectly and keep your home comfortable year-round. Their installation crews finish the job in a day or less. You can enjoy the rest of the summer with minimal disruption. Get the windows you want to protect and beautify your home. Choose from over 1,500 styles and colors. With installation crew leaders averaging over a decade of experience, you can trust Window Nation to install your windows correctly the first time. Window Nation offers a lifetime warranty on all their windows, so you can relax knowing that your home is protected far into the future. This month, their most popular offer of the year, 50% off all window styles with no money down, no payments, and no interest for 2 full years. So you won't pay anything until the year 2027. And when you begin paying, you'll be paying half price. 866-90-NATION, windownation.com. Mention my name. I promise you, they will give you a quick, easy, no pressure in-home estimate in an hour or less. 866-90-NATION, windownation.com. All right. My player that I have been talking about when I talk about our team with friends and others that I've been saying is going to have a big year, my guy's Deebo Samuel. I think people are split on him. I'm not saying that this is a major reveal. He's been an excellent player, but not recently, right? Because of injuries, etc. The whole team last year in San Francisco was pretty much injured. I think the signing of Deebo came with, varying opinions. To me, it was a no-brainer for the amount of money that they were signing him for 1 year. It is an absolute no-brainer to take a flyer on Deebo for this upcoming season. I think he's a perfect fit for the offense, perfect fit for the coordinator and the quarterback. I think he's going to have a big year. Max thinks Mikey Sanders is going to step up and have a Pro Bowl season. That's who he's been talking about. Who's your guy? The guy that you've been saying, this guy's going to have a big season. Let's go to Chris and Bowie. Chris, go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, Kevin? So I don't want to re-mention anyone that was already named because I like all those guys, but I really have a feeling that Frankie Louvu is going to not just be a Pro Bowler, but I think he's going to be a first-team All-Pro. I know that might sound
certainly
like
is talented enough to do that. I agree with you.
Right. So Louvu is my guy. San Francisco, love him. Deebo, Trey Amos, great. But Louvu is my guy. A second thing I have to say is outside of the player conversation, I think most, if not all of us, love when you have Neil from Rockville on as well as Howard Gutman. I'm not sure what your scheduling availability is with them, but make sure you're bringing those guys on, Gutman and Neil from Rockville, for the podcast or the radio show.
Well, I mean, we can't. We're not having them on just to talk ball. Typically, it's a legal issue that they both excel in because they are the legal contributors to this show.
Right.
Both Neil and Rockville and Howard Gutman, former ambassador to Belgium under the Obama administration. Yeah. And Howard, by the way, does a show. He does a political talk show in Richmond, and then he does a post-game show with his son Colin in Richmond following games. So, yeah, he can talk some ball too. Thanks for that. I like both of them. Ian, go ahead.
Frankie Louvu, and I was going to say verbatim what he said. I think he's got first-team All-Pro potential. I have a strong disagree on Deebo Samuel. He was left off the top 100 for a reason. And when you talk about Kingsbury and Daniels, Kyle Shanahan let him go. So that says a lot because he's got a lot of offensive weapons, and if he thought he could be useful, he would be. That's
a good reason to not believe, and I think that's one of the reasons that people weren't thrilled necessarily with the Deebo signing, you as well, and why I do have a strong feeling clearly that Deebo is going to have a big year and a contract year, which is why I thought it was worth mentioning because I don't think everybody would agree with it. So go ahead.
Yeah. And again, just I think Debo's one of these players that we are fascinated by because of the versatility, but he's made one Pro Bowl in 2021. That's a long time ago, and he's such a physical player, the wear and tear. But
Yeah,
you said
a lot of wear and tear.
Comment that I was going to bring up. Contract year, guess who loves contract years? Daron Payne, your guy. I think one of the most overrated players. But when he does deliver, when it's a contract year, so I could see him.
Well, it's
actually
technically
picking
not
it
a
up
contract
little
year
bit.
for him. He's got 2
But
years
you know
left
what
of
I
his
mean.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know that he's essentially a default contract year because they would let him go if not.
Right,
So I think he'll be highly motivated.
All right. Yeah, the Luvu thing, I mean, I guess my only issue with Luvu is you've got to take it to the next step where he becomes a household name and a dominant defensive player because he was a second-team All-Pro last year. He had a great season last year. But by the way, I agree. I think that's possible. I think, his 8 sacks last year with Von Miller with a better defensive front, year 2 in the Joe Witt Jr., Dan Quinn system. Luvu's now going into his, age 29 season? Yeah, he's going to turn 29 in September. He's so good. He is so versatile. He's so intense. He's such a great closer. There's so much to like about Frankie Luvu and what he could, provide. Not just, by the way, this next year, this time, or the off season of 2026, if he has that kind of year, you're going to have to pay him to keep him. Let's go to Paulie. Paulie, go ahead.
Big guy, hail to the W.
Hail to the W.
Top of the morning, man. Top of the morning. I think you're trolling me with this Debo thing, man.
Why?
Because I think in any other year, you would have said Terry. I really do, man. I mean, especially coming off what Terry did last year. It took 2 games for him and Jaden to just really start clicking, right? I mean, when has Terry had a bad season outside of, and it wasn't a bad season, it was pedestrian at best outside of the
Well, is Terry your answer?
No, I mean, Terry could be my answer, but my real answer is I always told Matt that just because I felt like he was trolling me, so I was trolling you back. But my real answer.
I'm not trolling you. Debo, you've heard me talk about Debo since the signing.
Yeah,
I like the signing a lot.
I know, but I think you're liking it even more now because you're taking your stance against Terry. But look, I'm gonna say this.
I haven't taken my stance against Terry. You do that all the time. You're doing what normal, barely listen callers do. I want Terry signed.
Yeah,
it's not against Terry.
I'm not gonna get into. I'm not gonna go into.
Is Terry your answer or not, or was that a troll answer? Because by the way, it could be your answer. You know why it could? Hold on, listen to me. You know why it could be your answer? Because he was 15th in reception yards last year, 19th in receptions. So you could say Terry in year 2 with Kingsbury and with Jaden is going to have one of those elite statistical years. A Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Amon Ross, Drake London kind of a year, CeeDee Lamb kind of a year.
I don't need him to have an elite statistical year. I need to have. He's going to have an elite production year, like he had last year.
How do you define production?
But my answer is Marshawn Lattimore.
Okay.
He's smelling the money too.
Right.
Marshawn Lattimore is smelling that money. And he's in the position where he's going to go up against the other team's best receiver, right? And if you look, remember, last year, he was hurt. We all know that, but he tried to gut it out. But there was games where teams didn't even look to his side of the field. Because he has that respect around the league.
One game.
Now you're talking about
one game.
2 games. Right. So now you're talking about he's coming back. He's healthy. He's to me, he has the best talent among everybody in the backfield, in that back 4. He has the best talent back there. He might have the best talent on the defense. So I look for Marshawn Lattimore to come back and have a big season because he's going to get paid, whether it's here or somewhere else. And he's smelling that money. And he's at a position where, you talk about betting on yourself. Well, it's easy for him to bet on himself because all eyes will be on him out on that island. And I think Whittingham is going to bring a lot of pressure this year, and they're going to put them cornerbacks in the position for feast or famine. And I look for him to feast.
All right, look.
All right, we'll get into Terry another day, man.
First of all, let me just say this. I agree with you. Marshawn Lattimore is very talented. I also agree with you. It's time for him to step up and have a big season. He needs it. He needs it. It's been since 2021, really, because of the injuries. He is, just so everybody understands, under contract for another 2 seasons. This could be, along with Laramie Tunsil, in the next off season, if both of those players perform at a high level, along with Frankie Louvu. There's going to be a lot of contract talk about extending various players when the season ends next year versus just one player this year. Let's go to Dave in Reston. Dave, thanks.
One more point.
Go ahead.
One more point. Hey, everybody talk about excitement for this. I'm very, very, very excited for this defense. You know, usually we had the 4 number 1 picker. You know, everybody's picking the top 2. Nobody's talking about the defense this year because how they played last year. But
right.
I think we have a chance. This defense is going to be very, very good, man. Very dominant. I really feel that in my bones. So
I hope you're right, because if you're right, this is a Super Bowl contending team, period. No doubt.
Hey, we got Jedi 5. We always going to be a Super Bowl contending
Well, I understand that, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, if you end up having an excellent defense, the problem with defense is just so hard to predict year to year. I don't know. Exactly. I don't have the same feeling you have. I'm not sure about the mix of players. I'm not sure about the scheme, the in-game play calling, but I have hope because it's weird the way things work with defense. Yep.
Remember the years you thought they was going to be good and they turned up for duds.
Well, 2020, I thought they'd be good defensively in 2023 after the season they had in 2022. Right. Dead wrong. That's the thing with defense. Impossible to predict year to year. Most people have an issue with that. Thanks, Paulie. Let me run. Dave and Reston. Dave, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, I agree with you on Mikey and Devo. They're probably my runners-up, but I'm going with Johnny Newton.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that I had on my list. I think,
that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's quick and fast. He had no training camp last year for the most part. You know, he had a good opening, preseason game, but that's not why. He's seems to be strong enough to fight off offensive linemen, and combined with Payne and the rotation, he's going to be great. He could very well be a Pro Bowler this year.
Johnny Newton is freakishly athletic and quick and fast. He can be a real problem as an interior pass rusher. That is his strength. You know, will Johnny Newton be the guy that ends up being a big part of run defense improvement if they end up having it? I feel less confident about that. But if you told me they ended up having a bigger year rushing the passer, I would say right now that Johnny Newton had a lot to do with that. Last year, rookie coming off injuries out of Illinois, never really was right physically at any given time. He is right now. You could even see, again, this was against the New England starting offense, but you could see his quickness. He is a problem with that quickness as an interior pass rusher. I've had people also tell me that are close to the situation to keep an eye on Johnny Newton's season this year. I think there is some internal excitement about the kind of year that Johnny Newton can have. Let's go to Oscar in Bethesda. Oscar, give me the guy that you've been telling all your friends. This is a guy that's going to have a big season this year. Go ahead.
Kevin, thank you for taking my call.
Sure, Oscar.
The guy that I was telling everybody about is just the guy that you just mentioned a few seconds ago, Johnny Newton. He's got a good pedigree. I mean, he comes from the Illinois fighting in Illinois.
Good defense. Yep.
And he was the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year.
Yes, he was.
And every time that I see him, he's doing something and doing something positive, which is very good for the defense. I wish some of the offensive players would play like him, as they were very poor yesterday in the practice session. But Johnny Newton, I think, is going to make a name for himself.
I think that's a good one. I had, in addition to mine, which was Debo, I had another 4 players listed. Johnny Newton was one of them. I think you're right. I think Dave and Reston is right. I think Johnny Newton is poised for a big-time breakout season. Let's not forget, he was projected, mid to late first, fell to them in the second. They were excited. I mean, they were counting the picks and hoping that he would fall to them. They had evaluated him at a very high level. They knew that there would be some issues rookie year with him coming off some of those foot injuries at Illinois, but he is super quick. I mean, super quick as an interior defensive lineman. Casey in DC. Casey, give me the guy that you've been telling your friends, this is the guy that's going to have a big year this year.
Hey, Kev, thanks for having me on.
Sure,
the
Casey.
guy I have coming back home to the DMV is Javon Kinlaw. I think he's about to have a breakout. Yeah, I'm surprised no one said it yet. Some call it an overpay, so it is a little controversial.
Right.
But I think people will soon call it a steal. When people ask how we're slowing down the Eagles this year, he will literally be front and center to the answer to that. Add that with some game-changing plays, maybe 8 to 9 sacks this year in Dan Quinn's season. I can see him having a Pro Bowl season for us. We're going to have a lot of primetime games. He's going to be able to get his name out there, and he's highly motivated.
I hope you're right. I hope they got this one right. This is one large human being, and they clearly were trying to get bigger up front. Bigger up front on both sides of the football. Why? Because the team that they have to hunt down is really big and really good up front on both sides of the football, that team being the Philadelphia Eagles. He's certainly got talent. He's certainly got the ability. He's going to have to stay healthy. That's been an issue for him. Certainly in 2022, it was, and at times in 2023. Last year in his one season with the Jets, that team was abysmal on defense, even with him. So they clearly have high expectations. The experience that Adam Peters had with Javon Kinlaw, drafting Javon Kinlaw when they were in San Francisco at the same position, I believe, that Daron Payne was drafted at a few years earlier. I think it was 14th overall. Javon Kinlaw. 2020 NFL draft 14th overall. Was Daron Payne, I'm pretty sure, was 14th overall in the 2018 draft. Right? 14th overall or not? No, 13th overall. Damn, I thought it was 14th. All right, 301-230-0980. We'll do this for one more segment. If you're on hold, stay there. I promise we will get to you. If you want to weigh in, we've got a line open. The player that you've been telling your friends when you're having conversations about our team, you're convinced this guy's having a big 2025. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, the team980.com. We're free and live on the Odyssey app. Really good column from John Keim this morning. Love John, of course, on Terry McLaurin on ESPN.com. John_Keim, too, if you want to read it. 301-230-0980. We'll do this for another segment. I do have some NFL talk next hour as well. Diana Rossini was on the show yesterday. Asked her, and I'll be asking all of our NFL guests, over the next few weeks as we approach the regular season for kind of their 2025 version of Washington, the big turnaround, this surprise team. Diana said New England. Start thinking about that. We'll do that at some point next hour. Who's the team that you've been telling your friends that team is going to have a shocking season this year, turn it around and end up in the playoffs? It happens every year, right? Last year, it was Washington. The year before that, it was Jacksonville, I think. No, it was Houston the year before that. The year before that, it was Jacksonville. Every year, there's a team that goes from essentially being picked to win like 5 or 6 games to winning 9, 10, or 11 plus and ending up in the postseason. Right now, I'm asking all of you out there, give me the player on our team that you think is going to have a big year, that you've been talking about, you're pretty convinced you're going to get this one right. Such and such is going to have a huge season. You may not be thinking about him, but I'm convinced for the following reasons. I think Debo is going to have a big year. I'm really, last year I was dead wrong. I thought it was Brian Robinson Jr. Now I thought it was Jaden first and foremost, but then, Brian Robinson Jr. I thought would really benefit from being in a backfield with a dual threat capable quarterback like Jaden Daniels. Part of it was injuries. He didn't have a terrible season, but he certainly didn't. I think I predicted 1,200 yards, Pro Bowl, double-digit touchdowns kind of a season from Brian Robinson Jr. I think Debo's a perfect fit. He's in a contract year. He's apparently in shape. That's always a key with him. Health is a key with him. There is truth in that there's a lot of wear and tear with Debo because of how physically he plays. That's true. I just see a big year for Debo Samuel. Who's your guy? 301-230-0980. We've had a lot of good answers. Johnny Newton's been the answer a couple of times. Mikey Sanderstill's been the answer, including from Max a couple of times. Let's go to Bob in Ocean City. Bob, who's your guy?
You know it. They've aggravated him. They've pissed him off. He's bringing it back strong. He's still pissed he wasn't that high a pick out of Ohio State. It's Scary Terry, brother. He makes everybody on the team 20% better on offense. I'm going with Scary Terry, first team All-Pro. And yes, put him on the board for 16 or 18 touchdowns, Kevin.
16 or 18.
Happen.
Wow.
Yes, brother. Grab it for everybody.
Look, Terry last year had his best season. It was his second Pro Bowl season. He made all pro for the first time in his career. He was a second team all pro. He was second in touchdowns in the league with 13. He was 19th in receptions, 15th in yards. There's a lot of room for him to really move up the statistical, in terms of a statistical season, like, 100 plus catches. Now, if you've got a quarterback and it's a dual threat system, you've seen that with some of the receivers in Baltimore. They don't get nearly the same number of opportunities. But would it surprise me if Terry had his best season? No, it would not surprise me at all. Year 2 for all of these players, both sides of the ball, should be, an advantage, I would think. Let's go to our guy, Billy in Chantilly. Billy, go ahead.
Kevin, good morning. Just to confirm, is your studio surrounded right now by the National Guard? Is there any issues in that regard?
I'm not in the studio is not in our nation's capital. My home is, though.
Not in the capital. Understood. I know we're not supposed to say Jaden Daniels, but when you were away getting some repairs, the Madden ratings came out. Jaden Daniels was ranked 85.
I was not getting repairs when the Madden ratings came out. I was actually taking a little vacation that particular time. But go ahead.
Okay. Jalen Hurts at 86. Do those folks know that if the teams were reversed in the playoffs, that the Eagles would have beaten the Commanders probably 63-0 with Jaden Daniels
instead
at the helm?
of 55-23?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
I got a couple, if you don't mind. It's going to be a heck of a good season. Von Miller, 18 sacks. I think Marshawn will have 12 picks. Wagner's going to have 160. That's right. Wagner's going to have 160 tackles. But to me, the sandbagger is Michael Gallup. The idea that we haven't signed Terry yet does seem to indicate that the team is very comfortable with the receiving core. I'm more concerned, obviously, than they are, and I think many of us share that concern. Gallup was a really good player, and I think he's probably showing himself in the camp that we haven't seen.
He was okay.
With who at quarterback?
Well, Dak.
Yeah. That's an 80 overall.
Do you want to hear something interesting, Billy? You just sent me on a quick, shallow dive anyway. What did you say for Marshawn, 18 interceptions?
Yeah. No, Von Miller, 18 sacks. Marshawn, 12 picks.
Oh, 12 picks. Okay. 12 picks would be tied for the 5th best interception season in NFL history. Night Train Lane holds the NFL record for interceptions in a season, 14 back in 1952. But here's something that's, I think, kind of interesting. We haven't had an interception season. We've had one interception season in the top 30 in this century. One. 2021, Trayvon Diggs had 11 picks. 11 picks for Diggs in 2021. Every other best interception season in the top 30 is from this century. And you know why? Because you don't see picks like you used to. You just don't. It was nothing to throw picks in the 70s, 80s, and maybe a little bit into the 90s. But the protection of the ball, the West Coast passing game, the accuracy of passers, the schemes, you just don't see picks like that anymore. Diggs's 11 interception season in 2021 is such an outlier for this century. Major outlier for this century. Actually, I was wrong. My fault. Antonio Cromartie had 10 in 2007. My fault. In the top 30.
Lattimore.
All right. 12 for Lattimore. Man, you had some big-time predictions. You covered a lot. Thanks, Billy. Appreciate it. Let's go to Bobby in North Carolina. Bobby, go ahead. Bobby, you there?
Bobby.
Do we have Bob? No Bobby.
Okay. No Bobby.
Bobby was the last one for this segment. Bobby was going to agree with me, Deebo Samuel. So here are the other guys that I had on my list after Deebo. Johnny Newton was next, and then Daron Payne. I think Johnny Newton, I've been hearing this for a while from people sort of in the know that they're excited about the kind of season Johnny Newton could have, especially as a pass rusher. Imagine if Johnny Newton and Daron Payne both have big years as pass rushers. They are effective as pass rushers. Imagine how that helps Von Miller, Frankie Louvu, Dorrance Armstrong, etc. Paulie said he's really excited about what the defense can be this year. I'm definitely interested to see what it's going to be this year because it's got to be improved. They can't win the division or they can't beat out a healthy Philadelphia team over 17 games if they are the same as they were last year defensively. Because the teams that right now are in front of them on their schedule, they're just much better offensively, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, etc. Last year, we know they faced a lot of backups. They faced third stringers at quarterback, and they couldn't stop some of those teams. So it's got to be better. Defense is so variable. We understand that from advanced numbers year in and year out. The teams that you expect to be great defensively, it just doesn't always work out that way. Teams that you expect to be terrible defensively sometimes step up and have surprising seasons defensively. Sometimes it's personnel related. Sometimes it's coaching or scheme related. Sometimes there's no obvious answer for it. We've had Aaron Schatz on the show many times, DVOA, and he says all the time, the offense so much more predictable year to year than defense. And I said, well, why on defense? The answer is easy on offense because there's stability at quarterback in a lot of situations. Defensively, there's not an obvious answer. It's different every single time it happens. But if Daron Payne and Johnny Newton as pass rushers play to their capability, and then you've got an Armstrong Luvu or a Von Miller Luvu on the outside, you got to get them into passing situations. You can't be getting 6-7 yards a carry on first and second down off the edges. But that could be an interesting thing to watch for sure. Kevin in Arlington wants to weigh in. Kev, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, thank you. As you know, I texted you earlier, and we're on the same page with Debo. But on the other side of the ball, while I wish I could say I think it's going to be Lattimore, I just have no doubt it's going to be Amos. He's going to have a breakout rookie year. We're talking all rookie. And I just want to make another point because I've been thinking about this. Like, when was the last time in consecutive years we had two youngsters come in and show they belong from the get-go and became huge parts of our team? And the last time I can really think of it is when we first got Gary Clark and then we got Ricky Sanders the next year. And adding those two guys to our wide receiver core just transformed it. And
that wasn't done in the draft, as you know. And what you're talking about is super young players, which are much more unpredictable. Yeah.
Right. And and it's been a while, but I really have this feeling that Sanderstill and Amos are special. And that's
I hope you're right, because corner is a grow into greatness position typically. The Sauce Gardners of the world, the Witherspoons, the Surtans are the, exception to the rule. But I hope you're right.
Yeah. We'll see.
I will say this, Kev, if Trey Amos doesn't have a massive rookie year, I'm not going to be disappointed. I'm not going to give up. You can't give up on corners after one season.
Right? Some of us were giving up on Quan Martin. It just took him a little while.
Right.
So I think that's a little. Hey, one more thing, Kev, if I can.
Yeah.
Are you concerned at all about Newton and Payne in the run stuffing department? I agree with you. I think both are terrific.
Not Payne. I mean, Duran got doubled more than John ever got doubled. I mean, Kinlaw's going to be a factor on rundowns.
Run stuffing.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm concerned about.
I don't have an answer to that. I don't have an answer to that. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that Duran with John maybe out of the picture, kind of big brother out of the picture. Maybe there's another big season in Duran. I got to run, Kev. Thanks as always. John Kime's going to jump on with us next. Wrote a really interesting column on the Terry situation.
All right, Bills two-time Pro Bowler James Cook has ended his hold in with a 4-year, $48 million extension that includes $30 million in guaranteed money, the most for a running back since the year 2020. Jordan Love underwent thumb surgery on his non-throwing hand. The Packers say he'll be good to go for week 1. And Vikings wide receiver Rondale Moore suffered his second season-ending injury in as many years. The dynamic punt returner suffered an injury to his left knee in the Viking preseason game versus Houston on Saturday. And the Nats, they fall by a score of 8-5 to the Kansas City Royals. Mitch Parker with a less than stellar performance, only giving up 2 hits, but he walked 3 at some critical moments, and the Royals made him pay with 5 earned runs. Early start today for the Nats. They look to avoid the sweep. First pitch at 2:10. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 1:40 on the Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1. And Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the stream and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Joining me right now is John Keim at John_Keim on X on Twitter. I just retweeted the column that he put out earlier this morning. Why Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin are at an impasse. It is worth the read. We're going to talk about it right now. John goes into the reasons the team feels the way it feels, the reasons that Terry feels the way it feels. Before we get into kind of the granular detail of what you wrote, and I read it during one of the breaks during the show, what do you think is a reveal in this story? Because there's something that you wrote that I do think is newsworthy. What do you think is newsworthy or a big reveal?
It's honestly, Kevin, sometimes it's hard for me to say, and I'll have these conversations with my editor because you're so close to it that I'm like, I don't know what people know or not, because a lot of the stuff is stuff that I've discussed or written in various forms, other people have discussed. So I think, I'd have to. I'm not sure.
You want me to tell you?
Yeah, go ahead. Tell me what you
wrote in the first part of the story. One league source said he could see the Commanders eventually agreeing to pay $28 million per year. Now, last week, with the Jeremy Fowler, another ESPN guy, talking about first 23 and then amending it to 25, he said they might be willing to go up a little bit from there. But nothing that would start with a 3. You sort of defined it here with a source. I think that's the first time we've heard that the team would be willing to go to 28.
Yeah, and I think like that, I think would be where I think my sense would be that would probably be the highest, right? And the only way, like, I don't think it starts with a 3 either, unless there's some ridiculously backloaded third year where he has no chance of seeing it, and then it's a bogus deal, right?
Right.
So, I don't think they want to go above the number that I said. I don't see that. So,
but they might be willing to get to that number.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do think that to get this done, that I'll say, like, Adam Peters is not talking about this, right? So you piece things together. And so could I see that getting there? Yes. Is it, I don't know how likely that is, but I think if you want to get it done, I think that's where they'd have to get to. And I think that's where Terry and his side would have to go down to. They're not going up to his number.
All right. We're talking to John.
So, and I forgot. I didn't forget about that part, but like, you just forget, like, what has been discussed publicly, what is known publicly all the time. And so sometimes you just like, I forgot that.
So before we get into, a lot of the detail again, I want you to describe what the tone of this impasse is now, because you start off your story about how everybody feels good about each other, and at the beginning of camp, and he's hugging the owner, and we saw him the other day with Adam Peters, but looks happy, holding in, versus holding out, and everybody loves him. But where is the tone of this negotiation now, player and Terry's side?
Well, I think, listen, what I've already been told, like, obviously he likes being around his team, the teammates, etc. But clearly there is some unhappiness with the negotiations, which means front office. So, like, that's where we're at. And, they're the ones that are controlling the purse strings. So that's where any frustration is going to be directed. And I think it's also why coaches stay out of this business, because you don't want to ruin the other aspect of it. Because if the coaches start applying pressure or saying things, then you start to create more resentment, and that's what you have to avoid. But so any frustration would be with the front office.
So understood. Is it hurt? Is it anger? Is it just frustration? I felt like that 35-minute press conference, I sensed a guy that was hurt. They didn't.
I definitely, okay. I would agree with that. And keep in mind, like, this is the reason why Terry McLaurin has traveled the road he has, going from a guy who went to Ohio State camp to try and get a scholarship to having Urban Meyer telling him not good enough yet, come back when you can do this, and then he did. And then you go from a guy who was a backup at Ohio State, starts to emerge a little bit as a senior, 3rd-round pick to this. You have a lot of pride, and the passion that he plays with comes out, right? And so, like, all that is that package. So if you don't, and he has always placed a high value on himself. So when you know that, and then you don't feel like someone else values you the same way you value yourself, this is what comes out. And I think, and that's what we saw in that press conference, which was a very long press conference for anything. Like, I remember back in the day when Trent Williams had when he came back after the whole cancer scare, his holdout, et cetera, and it was like 20 minutes. Like, God, that's a long one. Well, this was even longer, and you could just sense the hurt and the frustration, all the emotions. But that's who he is, right? And it's why he's gone this way. So it's not a surprise that he would feel hurt, because, like, hey, this is what I've done. Why don't you see it the same way?
All right. Well, I want to get into some of the detail now by asking you the following question, and then you can answer it with some of the detail that you had in this story. Some of it is what we've all talked about, but
right.
It's also very well defined. Why, John, doesn't the team value Terry the way he thinks the team should value Terry?
All right. Well, let's start with age, and that's always going to be the state, and it's why I always felt like this would be a tricky one, because they couldn't get past that. Like, it's not just that he's going to turn 30 this year. He's under contract this year. So this isn't about 30. This is about 31, 32, 33. So what do you want to pay somebody who's going to hit that point? They're very analytics-based. The analytics is not good or kind to receivers who hit that point. Now, could he be a unicorn with that? Sure. But then I would still say, like, we had our ESPN research. I asked them to kind of look up some numbers, and you see guys like Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Andre Johnson, guys who are at or near Hall of Fame level players, right, or in. And like, their drops were precipitous after that age. And not only were their drops precipitous, their numbers beforehand were a lot higher than where Terry's at.
Yeah.
So, and you can point to quarterback play, sure. Not every receiver has great quarterback play, but you can point to Terry. But then you can look at last year, and his receiving yards per game were the 3rd lowest of his career. So it wasn't like, you know what I mean? Like, so he had, but he was more productive with the targets and catches he had because of 13 touchdowns. So there's a yin and a yang with that. But the point is, like, the production he's giving you now is not what their level was, and they dropped. And those are, so that was always going to be the sticking point. But then again, then McLaurin's side will say, only going into his 7th year, so he doesn't have the same wear and tear on the legs. So his consistency may be he might be more consistent. His game might age more consistently, right? And so, like, and you know what? Who the heck knows? But they're looking at, this is like a risk management, right? So if you're looking at that, like, what typically happens, and typically with receivers, that's what happens. And so that has always, to me, been the number one sticking point. And there's obviously, I'm sure we'll get into other stuff, but like, then you can look at the DK Metcalf deal and it's your production is very similar. It's very similar, but he's 2 years younger. Also, he was traded to Pittsburgh, so they had to extend him. So he had the leverage over them. The leverage here is he's under contract. So obviously they need him, right? We know that. Nobody would dispute that or should dispute that, but he is under contract. So it's a little bit different situation. I think it's why Metcalf got more, but they would point to he's 2 years younger. And that makes a difference for any receiver on the market.
Look, I think there's more with Metcalf than just 2 years younger. And obviously the big difference in terms of leverage with respect to, a negotiation is, hey, just so you know, you trade for me, I need a new deal. And Terry's under contract. But, I've heard people say that you ask 20 NFL GMs and, the majority of them would take Metcalf over Terry straight up, regardless of age.
Speed. Yeah. I mean, it's because the measurables, like, and so you see that, and it's like, that's what people would look for. I've heard that too. And so, but McLaurin has been, as one coach told me, like the heart who used to coach here, a heartbeat of the team. Now this coach initially did not see him as a number one receiver, but the more he's here, the more you understood the importance of him to this offense and to the team. So
say that again. Say what you just said again.
Initially, this coach did not see him as a
this
number
coach
one
meaning Quinn or Kingsbury.
Oh no.
The coach you talked to. The coach you talked to. I'm sorry, I didn't follow that.
No.
My fault.
No. Sorry, but somebody I talked to called him the heartbeat of the team. Now that particular coach did not think initially that he was a number one receiver.
Got it.
But I think that's also something where, I think you have to sometimes be around him to feel that impact, and that's what this coach felt. So I think that's because it's always why, like when you hear from scouts say, "Oh, I want to be at a game because I want to feel this person's impact." This is the kind of guy they talk about, right? Because like you may watch film and do you feel it all the time? But when you're there around it, then you do. And so like that's a plus for him. But but with Metcalf, the size and the speed are things that people will always point to and feel like, hey, we can get even more out of them because, that's how coaches think.
What else beyond age? I think you did such a good job in having some of that research and the analytics and the fact that the team may be relying on some of that, post-age 31 season data as part of their thought process. What else? Why? Other reasons why they don't view Terry the way Terry and his agent view themselves?
Well, part of it, too, is precedent. So, excuse me, while they clearly – I think every year Jane Daniels is here, they will view themselves as being in a Super Bowl window. So just start with that. And it's why they went out and got guys like Laramie Tunsil, Marshawn Lattimore, bringing in Von Miller, et cetera. But the precedent part is that, okay, let's say they hit Terry's number, which would be, right now, anywhere between $5 to $8 million more than they would want per year.
Right.
So what happens when Laramie Tunsil's up for an extension? They traded for him. They traded several picks for him. What is he going to say? Is he going to say that, Terry was here and he went through all this, so, it's okay that he got overpaid in their eyes, right? Like McLaurin may not feel that way, right? But the team would feel that way.
Yeah.
So how is Tunsil going to view that? How is Frankie Louvu and his agent going to view that? He was a priority signing for them on the first day of the free agency that they were here, so then you have Marshawn Lattimore, possible extension. Deebo Samuel would, depending on what he does, would they want to keep him? They have
next
other guys
off season could be very busy.
Right. And so if you feel like you're overpaying for guys at a certain amount, you're going to be now doing that for a lot of guys. Now, would you do that for Jane Daniels? Yeah, he's a quarterback. And he's young. And so it would be different, but they don't want to get into that game. And the other part too is because from McLaurin's side, they'll say, and he'll even kind of point out like what he went through here. And what he went through, we all saw it, and he was terrific, true pro and all that. For them, they're going to say, we're paying for the next 3 years, not the last however many.
That's right.
Because they weren't here. And so like they could kind of like, the reason why it's better is because they're here. So, that's why I say like there's a definite difference of how they view it on multiple ways, but the precedent is a big one. The other thing, Kevin, in the next 2 years, in 26 and 27, I think it's 1 year they have the fewest under contract. Maybe 1 year it's like 31st. So like the second fewest under contract. They're going to have a lot of spots to fill, in part because the failed draft classes of the past. Like that's a major issue.
Plus a lot of these 1 year deals too.
Right. But I think what's come about in part because of all those failed draft classes.
Right.
And partly, right. But yes, there was all these 1 year deals. And so, trying to not saddle yourself with what they would consider bad contracts while you're trying to build through the draft, it's a tricky way because it leads to an older roster with a lot of young guys. So, anyway, so precedent is a big one too, and that's definitely a big one.
I think it's commonsensical to consider precedent. And I don't have a problem with the fans that say, yeah, but he's so important and you're trying to win the Super Bowl this year. But that precedent, especially with what they'll have potentially next offseason and the offseason after that, they have to be thinking about the big picture. So let's cut to the chase. What's your hunch right now on how this gets resolved? The options are, an extension where Terry has to come back a lot and give a lot, and maybe the team comes up a little bit to something with a number starting with a 2. He plays this year under his existing contract. They have next year the flexibility of the tag. There's a holdout that's in play. How do you see it playing out between now and September 7th?
So going into camp and even earlier, like you just say, at some point they're going to get this done.
Right.
But I still look at it and say, okay, but how are you going to bridge these divides? And is getting up to a 28 and a half enough to do that? I don't know yet. And so I would lean toward that happening because ultimately both sides are better together. And I think, the hard part for McLaurin is, first of all, he is under contract. So the leverage is you're under contract. So this isn't about, like, if you don't want to report this year, you're not getting the big deal next offseason. Like, it's not
exactly
that. And like, even just as I'm talking to, I haven't talked to every team, but the general feeling I've gotten when you talk to people, like, no, nobody is going to do that. And so if you sit out, not only are you costing, losing your weekly game check, but you're hurting your future value. Cause then at 30, like, a guy who's going to be 31 coming off a year he didn't play. Yeah. You can say, well, you didn't get the wear and tear on your legs, but you're still 31. And so like, that's a risk for him.
Huge.
So yeah, very big risk. And now the other risk is you come in, you get hurt, right? But that's a risk for any player. So like, you can use that for any player in any situation. The risk is always you get hurt. That's why players like security. I remember, there were players back in the day who said they'd never play for Steve Spurrier and they signed extensions because security. So that's a big deal. And so for him, I think ultimately, it gets to that. And this team clearly could use him. We know that. We know what he means to this offense. And I also think like McLaurin is very well, like this, I think he's so beloved here. I don't think you're going to get that anywhere else how much that matters to him. Right. And so, I think it's just better for them to get this worked out. And so I would lean toward that, but my lean is not as strong as it used to be just because you've got to bridge these divides. And here's the other thing, Kevin, if I don't know that it would be, I think when the sides if they got together, it's okay, strip this away. I think you could get this done pretty quick, but you've got to get to that point. And so far we're not there. Doesn't sound like it yet.
I have one more question.
The other thing, like I watched James Cook sign today. I'm like, nothing would shock me at this point because it's, like I said, I think when they're both sides are ready, I think you could go like that. And, they're not going to exactly call me up on the phone and say, hey, we're going. So.
Yeah. John's written a column this morning on ESPN.com. It's a lengthy column that addresses a lot of what's going on right now between Terry and the team. It's totally worth the read. John's addressed why the team, believes he's worth a lot less than what Terry believes he's worth, which is more in the DK Metcalf contract range, age, the precedent, the evaluation of the player, etc. By the way, I'm still a lean on getting a deal done, but less of one than I was a few weeks ago. But what really makes sense from Terry's standpoint, if they really get a sense the team's not getting anywhere near that, is bird in hand. $50 million guaranteed or $55 million guaranteed is a lot more than what he'll get paid this year. And even if they were to franchise tag him for 2026. So we'll see how it weighs
Right.
out. But I do want to ask
Yeah.
you one more specific question, and you didn't mention any of this. He's got this supposed ankle injury. Is the PUP list missing the first 4 games getting paid? Is that even in play, do you think?
I don't see how that would or should be, to be honest. So if they do that, there's something else going on, right? And I just don't think that's in anybody's best interest because
he'd miss the first 4 games, definitely.
Right,
You can't bring him back
right.
before week 5.
No, right. And so, like, he's not. I do not believe the ankle injury is that serious.
Right.
So, so it would be surprising to me, and to me that wouldn't make sense. Like, this team wants to win, and the way McLaurin, let's say they don't work out a deal, the only way he can really show, like, hey, you're missing the mark here, is to be out there on the field. So, you know what I mean? Like, so I just don't see any value to keeping him on there.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I would push back and say he has no leverage right now, but could gain a little leverage if he didn't play and offensively they fell apart without him.
Sure,
but I don't think they believe that they would fall apart without him. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that, and I think the other thing is, then you have a lot of guys in that locker room who know. And this is without me talking to a single player about this, because I haven't gone down this road, because I don't think that Terry would do that. And it's just not who he is, right? But I think if you do that, then you risk, to me, wouldn't you risk your standing in the locker room? If they know you can play and you're doing this because of this, and it's just to show that, then what are other guys going to say?
Yeah.
Like, he's a beloved guy, and they're like, he's very well respected. So, and he's been a captain for a reason. So that doesn't sound, and like, I think players understand the business in the off season. During the season, they want to win. And if, guys want to see guys out there who are able to play, and that would be, to me, another risk. And then, like, again, so you're risking on multiple levels. It doesn't seem like it's who he is.
Great job. It's a good read. Appreciate you jumping on short ask and notice. I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, John Keim, everybody. So where are you right now? John's got some really good stuff, and I'll kind of reset it when we come back. But 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. What's your prediction on how this plays out? How would you like to see it play out at this point as well? He gets something done for closer to what the team wants to pay him, maybe a slight increase to something like $28 per year. Play on the final year of his deal, or maybe he holds out. So I want to know what you think will happen and what you'd like to see happen here between now and the beginning of the season. Kevin Sheehan Show, Team 980, the team980.com, 301-230-0980. Phone lines are open. All right. I want to tell you about Foley Mechanical. This is an outstanding HVAC system company. We were having some HVAC system issues. My wife doesn't mess around when it comes to things like comfort. We called Foley Mechanical. Dan Foley came out himself and dealt with the situation directly. Super impressive. Dan owns 100% of the company. It's not a franchise. It's not some big private equity firm. That means he controls the quality from the equipment and the people that he hires. His team, professional, skilled, sharp. Foley Mechanical is full service, heating, AC, hot water, and boilers. And they're the go-to for older homes with radiator heat, a real specialty in the market. They work across D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, and they proudly install Amana HVAC equipment. If your system needs help or you just want it done correctly, call Foley Mechanical or go to FoleyMechanical.com and tell Dan that I sent you. All right, 301-230-0980. 301-230-0980. John wrote a really good story this morning about the Terry team impasse, why they're at an impasse with some detail, like, some news. I think it was news that John had one league source saying that he could see the Commanders eventually agreeing to pay $28 million per year. John makes it very clear that Terry's side wants a deal similar to the DK Metcalf deal, but that deal is different. He was traded to Pittsburgh. He wasn't going to, report unless he had a new deal. So Pittsburgh had to give him a new deal. And DK Metcalf is 2 years younger. And there are a lot of people around the league that would say DK Metcalf is the better player. So the team doesn't see Terry as $33 million per year for a number of reasons. John said age is a big issue, but said the team, is relying on, analytics, heavily relying on analytics. And according to ESPN research, over the past 5 seasons, only 3 receivers 31 years or older have played at least 10 games and averaged 70-plus receiving yards per game. 6 have averaged 60 plus, and a handful of notable receivers saw a drop off in the season after turning 31. Julio Jones went from 96.2 yards per game to 39.5. DeAndre Hopkins from 77.9 yards per game to 50.5. AJ Green from 80.2 to 34.2, and Andre Johnson from 79.1 to 63.8. We're talking Hall of Fame caliber receivers whose numbers were much bigger and impacts much greater than Terry's at this point. So the team's relying on a lot of that. They're relying on the idea that they do not want to set a precedent. I mean, we've got Laramie Tunsil and Frankie Louvu around the corner, potentially Marshawn Lattimore, potentially a run at re-signing Deebo Samuel if he were to have a big year in this upcoming season. And they do not want to set a precedent of overpaying a player like Terry McLaurin with all that they have on the horizon. The bottom line here is the team holds all the cards financially. They just do. And the reason is simple. Terry's under contract. And entering your age 30 season, wanting to hit it big with one last big deal, you can't hold out and not play. Like, that's just not an option for him. That doesn't help him make more money. That doesn't help him get to free agency with being super sought after entering his age 31 season when the analytics out there say he'll start to drop off. No, he's got to either sign this deal now or play and have a massive season. I think it still leads to, in terms of all the information that's out there, no matter how, difficult this has become, no matter how hurt he is by the process, I think he's going to have to give. Diana Rossini said that yesterday, said she believes that it'll end with Terry giving in. Because ultimately for him, playing for this team is really good for him. Playing this year is really good for him. And getting his money now is really good for him. And the bird in hand, even though it's not nearly the bird that he wants, of $28 million per year if the team got up to that, and 50 to 55 guaranteed, is more than if he were to enter this season and play out the final year of his deal and then hope that next year brought the big deal. So I still think, and I still want a 3 to 4 year deal, easy out, after year 3 for sure, painless out for the team at 28 per year, 55, call it guaranteed, and let's get him into camp as soon as possible. That's what I would like to see, because I really don't want this to go on much longer. I think there's a chance it could impact the start to the season if he were to just show up, on Wednesday, the day of the install for the Giant game, which, by the way, for week 1 happens well before the Wednesday. They start installing for the Giants the week before that. So I hope, what I want is an end to this with Terry signing a contract extension. That's what I want. I think it's best for him, and I think it would be the best thing for the team, and I think it should happen now, sooner than later. Now, ask me again in 2 weeks as we start to approach, the 2 weeks is August 27th. So at that point, we are 11 days away from the opener. And now the benefit of him being in camp is less than it is now. And I might feel at that point, you know what? I'd rather the team not sign him to a long-term deal now. I'd rather he just play out the final year of his deal. But for me, what I would like to see, and what I think we'll see, is a contract extension sooner rather than later. We saw James Cook wrap it up with Buffalo today. That kind of came out of nowhere. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out of nowhere in the next 7 days. And Terry gives. And the team comes up a little bit. Terry gives more. Team comes up a little bit, and they end up with a long-term contract extension. It's what I want to happen, and it's what I think will happen. What do you say? What do you want to see happen? What do you think will happen? 301-230-0980. Phone lines are open. Let me just say again, I want to be real clear on something. If it doesn't happen in, say, the next week to 10 days, next 2 weeks anyway, at that point, there is going to become a point in which the team says, well, we didn't get the benefit of having him here. It's just better for us if he just plays out this final year and we've got the flexibility of the franchise tag. Because in that situation, as I've described repeatedly, probably ad nauseum, the team gets to pay a lot less now and pay as you go rather than 50 to 60 million out of pocket. 40 of it signing and another 20 of it in escrow or whatever it would be. All right, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Let's start with Mark in Largo. What do you think will happen? What do you want to see happen?
I think they will sign him hopefully this weekend, because you don't need this distraction on Monday Night Football. They don't. You don't need this distraction.
Well, it's Monday Night Football preseason.
It doesn't matter, Kevin. They need to get this done. And here and I think I hope this happens this weekend. It'll probably take a week. Now let me ask. Okay, I'm not going to go on this that you say I like to do on you said on Friday, but I do have a question for you.
Okay.
What is the status with Noah Brown?
What did Ben say yesterday? Remember I asked him about injuries. I think they feel confident that Noah Brown will be 100% ready to go, for the opener. I think that the Noah Brown concern is that, he gets hurt,
Okay. Now, here's the reason why I say this. Putting Terry aside, and if you want to throw Debo to a side too, I really think Adam has not really shown. I mean, what is the future wide receiver core of this team? Is it Jalen Lane? Luke
receivers
McCaffrey,
that
come on, man.
are not on the team right now. Free agent
And you know what,
next year.
Kevin? That may be the case. So that tells me, I know we're going for a Super Bowl, and I get that. It's just that playing hardball with someone who is probably your most productive receiver right now, and I get it where you're coming from. I understand that. It's just the rest of the receivers haven't shown anything, and I think this is why Adam is probably coming down off his little high horse a little bit. Because, I mean, I don't think you give him 33. He's not going to get 33. But I do think you can give him 29 with bonuses that could equal up to 33. But just get him in camp, man. Damn.
But can I go back to the question that you asked? The future of for this team at wide receiver is Terry McLaurin for the next 2 years. They have him
for the
under
next
contract
2 years,
this
but
year,
what
and
about
they
when
can use
Jaden
the tag
gets
on
his
him next
contract?
year.
And that's fair, but they don't really have a run. They don't have a go-to receiver outside of Terry, and that's Noah's not healthy.
Well, how many teams do?
I think Noah's going to start. I'm gonna tell you right now. I think Noah's going to start the season on the pup list. I'm willing to take a bet on that right now. I guarantee he's going to start the season off on the pup list.
I hope he doesn't. You know, I hope that
he's
ready to go. He was actually a favorite of the young quarterback last year, Jaden Daniels, before Terry even was.
He was, but I just think that I just think there's a lot going on there that I'm not impressed with, and particularly with Luke McCaffrey. I love Luke McCaffrey, but I think Jalen Lane is going to surpass him.
Yeah, there's no obvious answer to what does the receiving core look like and how productive is it without Terry, because there's nothing impressive right now other than Debo as a weapon.
Absolutely.
But again, that's a conversation we really don't have to have until 2027 at this point, because Terry's under contract this year, and they could tag him next year if they don't work out a long-term deal next year. Terry's the number one receiver on this team and will be on September 7th against the Giants, regardless of whether or not they get a long-term deal worked out. And there's just no other commonsensical answer to this.
I do think they'll get a deal done before the end of August. I just hope it's done. I like it to be done this weekend, to be honest with you.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
All right,
All
buddy.
right, I see you guys on hold. We've got an open line, too, if you want to weigh in, 301-230-0980. We had Keim on the show. He wrote extensively about the current Terry versus team standoff. How do you want it to play out? How do you think it will play out? I think it's going to play out with a contract extension where Terry gives a lot, the team comes up a little bit, and it ends up somewhere around $28 million per year and 50 to 55, somewhere in that range, guaranteed, and that it gets done sooner rather than later. That's also how I'd like it to play out. But as I said, if this thing goes on another 2 weeks and we're right around the corner from the opener, at that point, I may feel like it would be better for the team to just have Terry play on the final year of his deal. But the way I feel today is that there will be a contract extension. It'll come sooner rather than later. By that, let's call it 10 days or less. Hopefully it's 7 days or less. And that's how I want it to play out. So that's the question for you. How should it play out? How do you want it to play out? 301-230-0980. Take your calls when we come back. Odyssey Sports Training Camp coverage is brought to you nationally by Geico. Switch and save. Get more with Geico. All right, phone lines are open, 301-230-0980. We had John on the show, John Keim on the show just about 35 minutes ago. John's written extensively about the Terry McLaurin team standoff and where it is now and why it is where it is. There was some news in John's story. He's got an NFL source that indicates that they think the team would be willing to come up to $28 million per year. But Terry's, adamant about the DK Metcalf deal, which just, if you don't know, $33 million a year, $60 million in guarantees. And the team just doesn't see Terry as that level of contract. I didn't say player, I said contract. And the reason for that is, A, the contract is unique. He was traded to Pittsburgh, and that trade doesn't go through unless Pittsburgh agrees to pay DK Metcalf what he wants. So he had the leverage in that particular situation. He's also 2 years younger, and there are people that believe DK Metcalf is a better player. So they're not looking at that contract as anywhere near a comp for those reasons. They also are heavy on analytics when it comes to this kind of a decision with a receiver getting ready to enter his age 30 season. And there's plenty of data that suggests that essentially after 31, which would be the second year of this deal, that receivers really start to drop off. They also do not want to set a precedent with a lot of contracts around the corner. Tunsil, Luvu, potentially Lattimore, and even Deebo Samuel overpaying the market for any player, including someone like Terry. How do you want to see this thing end? How do you think it will end? I want it to end and end soon with a contract extension that's Terry giving in big time, the team coming up a bit, and $28 million a year, 50 to 55 guaranteed, 3-4 year deal, however it gets structured, and he's in camp sooner rather than later. I think it's going to end that way too. I do. There's just the common sense says Terry would be insane to let this get to a point in which there isn't an offer on the table. That you're at the beginning of the season, and now the team says, just play it out, man, and we'll figure it out next offseason. 50, to 55, 60 million guaranteed is the bird in hand. The two in the bush are going, playing that final year of his deal and hoping that entering his age 31 season, people see him the way he wants to be seen. That seems like a long shot, even if he were to have a big season. So I think common sense says Terry gives eventually, and they get a deal done closer to where the team thinks the market is for Terry. I think they'll give a little bit and come up a little bit. And if they were to get to 28 a year with 50 to 55, to me, from the jump, that's what I've always discussed as market value deal for what Terry is and the point in which he is getting ready to play his age 30 season. If the team wanted to get it up to 30, I wouldn't have had a problem with that. Any higher than that, and I think it's a bad precedent to set. Where do you want to see this thing get resolved? How do you think it gets resolved? 301-230-0980. Let's go to Bones. It's a different Bones. Bones, go ahead.
Actually, it's Tone with a T, not Bones.
Oh, no wonder. No problem. All right, go ahead, Tone.
No problem. So I think I'm probably the only one that's ready for this to be over. I think you don't want it to be over because all your calls are based on emotions and fans that are dealing with emotions. That's why they still keep talking about this and don't understand that he's under contract. So for you, ratings are great because they're going to keep coming. I'm just glad they're not running my team because these are the same group of fans that wanted us to use analytics. They wanted us to use analytics.
Right.
Now we're using it and they go, don't do that, just pay him.
Yeah.
Yo, this
I'm
dude,
not with that, as you know.
And we keep talking about the injury, right? He's getting older and he's injured. So let's take that into next year after your holdout that you're injured and old and want a big contract. So this
I don't think he's
better come
injured
to
for
a
real,
head. Exactly. So this faking in the injuries got to come to a head real soon, or now you have a reputation of being old and injured. That's really not going to help you with the contract anyway. The bottom line is this dude is under contract. The reason I'm tired of hearing about it is because he's got to play. He wants money. He's got to play. Whether the team comes up or doesn't come up, if the team just say, you know what, bro, we'll see you when you come, or you can just lose $8 million sitting at home trying to bluff us.
More than $8 million.
He can't win. There is no leverage. And for every fan that calls in and says, well, just pay him, I hope we come to a deal. I hope he has zero leverage. Terry better figure out that he better get what he can while he can, or he's going to be short.
Yeah.
And we don't understand that. We everybody pay him. Why?
Not me.
Poor business sense.
I'm with you.
He's under
I'm with you.
contract. He's under contract. Just let him sit at home and wait. We call us when you're ready, Terry. And if you wait too long, this bill on the table is going to be gone.
Yeah. Look, if he were to sit out, John spells it out in his story. He's basically losing, close to $1 million a week. It's like $911,000 per week. Plus, there's another $50,000 roster bonus he gets each week during the season, which equates to like somewhere. But it's part of like there's a roster bonus each week. Then there's another roster bonus that he could get for just being on the roster. A lot of money it would cost him. And like I said, his best chance to get 50 generational, crazy money, one last contract is right now with this team. And if he's going to, get hung up over DK Metcalf's contract, he may cost himself $55 million.
It is ridiculous to pay somebody more money than you would have to pay him if he was on the franchise tag. And
that's right.
People can't register that.
Yeah.
I can put him on the franchise tag and save money. Why would I give him any more money?
Right.
Everybody's talking about emotions. There's no common sense in these phone calls. Just pay him. Wow, because we love him. We need him. He's great.
I think your first part, Tone, heavy on analytics, being adults, treating it like more of a business rather than, what it's been treated like. And here it is, the first chance for them to really be adult, look, heavy on analytics. And I don't know if it's the majority, but there are a lot of people that say, just pay him. Look, there is a reason that some people want to see him happy rather than sad. But the bottom line is he's a pro. It's probably worked against him in these negotiations. He'll be there for the real games when they begin. I'd like to see him get in earlier. Mo and Largo. Mo, how do you want to see it? How do you want to see it play out, and how do you think it should play out?
How I would like to see it play out is for them to try to lock him up for the next, including this season, 2 years after that. But how I see it playing, I think he shows up. I don't think they sign a deal. I think they franchise him next year, and I think he hits the road afterwards.
Okay.
As far as, the way I see the situation, I mean, he does have some leverage, and that I think that comes by just from the lack of production from his peers around him that play the position that he plays. I mean, everybody talks about how much better they think the receiving core will be if Terry does play. Terry's a good player, don't get me wrong, but the rest of those guys, they ain't really nothing to write home about, and I don't really consider Debo to be a legitimate number 2. So, I think everybody needs to just taper their expectations for this upcoming season, because personally, I don't see the transition or the ascension from last year to this year. That's just kind of how I see things.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with you, Mo, that if Terry's not out there, which he's going to be out there, that they don't have anywhere near the receiving core that they have with him, and that it wouldn't be nearly as dynamic an offense, and that they'd suffer something without him for sure. So yeah, I don't think that's hard to agree with. Let's go to, is it Athen or Ethan in Annapolis? Go ahead. Athen, go ahead.
Athen in Annapolis. Shout out to Mad Max and his girlfriend Sydney Sweeney. See you at the game on Monday. But listen, Kevin, I just think Terry has surrounded
Who's
himself
Sydney
with
Sweeney
poor
dating?
representation.
Me.
You?
No, I wish. It's a joke me and Ethan have going for a while.
Yeah. I don't know why she hasn't called you at this point. Doesn't make any sense to me.
I agree.
Go ahead, Athen. Sorry.
She might be calling. She might be calling the station tomorrow. But anyways, listen. I just think he he has surrounded himself with poor representation, and maybe I'm tracking this wrong, but he signed his extension after the 4th year, and not the 5th year. And I think he might have cost himself money by not signing the contract after the 3rd year. So that would be his first mistake, if I'm understanding Spot Track correctly. And the second thing is just that this whole thing with the injury of okay, he paid $200,000 in fines or accumulated it, and then shows up the next week to camp with this injury. That sends a message to the rest of the league. Obviously, the team has colluded with him to do this, but they're doing him a favor right now.
Yeah,
if
they
he
are.
draws this out another week or closer to the season, it just sets a vast precedent, I think, not only to the Redskins, but the rest of the league if he's going to end up going somewhere else.
Yeah, the first, extension that he signed in 2022 was entering his final year of his rookie deal. Because remember, as a 3rd-round pick, there wasn't an option for a 5th year. You don't get that option with anything other than first-round picks. So he signed that 3-year, $68.4 million deal going into his 4th season. Which was the smart thing for him to do, really. I mean, some people have suggested because he was an older rookie that the problem with signing it then or signing a 3-year deal was it was going to sync up with his age 30 season when he signed his next deal, if he does right now, and that could impact it. And maybe that deal should have been a shorter term deal. I'll leave that up to the contract experts. Chris, in Annapolis, how do you want this thing to resolve itself? How do you think it will get resolved? Go ahead.
Well, I think something that a lot of people are saying, but they're not quite going there, is even with Terry, I don't know if we have the depth of the wide receiver core we need. So what I want to happen is on Saturday, I want to sign Amari Cooper. And then on Tuesday or Wednesday, I want Terry to go ahead and re-sign. And now you got 2 outside receivers that can actually play. What I think will happen, I don't think Amari Cooper will happen, but I do think sometime in about the next week, Terry will sign for that reasonable deal in the $27 million range.
That's what I think. The Amari Cooper thing, Amari Cooper's out there, Odell Beckham Jr.'s out there, Gabe Davis is out there. I mean, I don't know. They probably are hoping for a major injury or a major situation in which they can really pounce on a significant, 1 year would be heavy incentives, no doubt, deal that probably Washington, wouldn't be willing to pay right now. Thanks, Chris. Let's go to Eric. Eric's calling from Texas. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree with y'all on the fact that he doesn't have a lot of leverage. I think that a lot of teams wouldn't want to pay him that much either because, again, he's getting older. And, I mean, he's been very consistent getting 1,000 yards a year, but I just don't think that it's worth it. And, since I'm from Texas, I'm a Houston Astros fan, and you can see how the Astros, they trade the players that they know is going to be too hard to get it because they're going to want a lot of money, and they trade them while they're still good and able to get something back, and either probably in the NFL standpoint, draft picks or something that they can get a future with instead of a older wide receiver that is going to be just probably have maybe 2 more good seasons, and then after that kind of fades like Odell and everybody else.
Interesting you bring that up. A friend of mine texted me something, similar to what you said. He said, question, if the Skins aren't concerned about Terry not being on the team in 2027, then why not try to trade him now and get something in return? I understand the contract plays into what they would get in return, but it seems like the Skins are trying to screw Terry. I just don't agree with that. I think the problem is that Terry would demand, why would he demand any less with a team that he gets traded to? And that just lowers the compensation to a point where it would be negligible. You'd much rather have Terry playing on the final year of his deal with the flexibility to tag him next year than taking a 3rd or a 4th round pick for next year for him right now. Because that's all you're going to get back more likely than not, because the team's going to have to pay him an over market deal for him to play. You wouldn't trade for him and then force him to play on the final year of his deal. That's not what would happen. I think it's all about two things. Compensation wouldn't be enough because he's looking for a new deal. And number two is the team does need him, and they'll have him because he's under contract. If you're on hold, we'll finish up with your calls. James, Pete, George, anybody else on hold. How do you want to see this thing resolve itself with Terry McLaurin? How do you think it will get resolved? Football Talk on the Team 980 is presented by Paramount Plus. You can count on much. Well, no, you can't count on much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today.
All right, here's what's happening. The Bills have signed two-time Pro Bowl running back James Cook as he ends his hold-in to a 4-year, $48 million extension that includes $30 million in guarantees. That is the most guaranteed money signed by a running back in the past 5 years since 2020. Jordan Love underwent thumb surgery on his non-throwing hand yesterday. The Packers say he will be good to go for Week 1. And Vikings wide receiver Rondale Moore suffers his second season-ending injury in just as many years. The dynamic punt returner suffered an injury to his left knee in the Viking preseason game versus Houston on Saturday. The Nats, they fall to the Kansas City Royals by a score of 8-5. Mitch Parker with a less than stellar performance, only giving up 2 hits, but walked 3 at some critical moments. And the Royals made him pay with 5 earned runs. Early start today for the Nats as they look to avoid the sweep. First pitch at 2:10. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 1:40. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1 and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the stream and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Football talk on the Team 980s presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. The Sportico valuations of NFL teams list is out. The annual 2025 franchise valuation ranking. It's funny that it's out today because answering an email earlier in the show that suggested Washington's worth $8 billion now. I think it was Sean who sent that email. I forget now. Washington is the 10th most valuable NFL franchise. It is worth $7.47 billion. So, yes, the $6 billion, just over $6 billion purchase 2 summers ago has appreciated, up 20%, by the way, 19% from where it was a year ago. The Cowboys still number one, $12.8 billion, followed by the Rams, Giants, Patriots, 49ers, Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, Raiders, and then it's Washington at number 10. 301-230-0980. We got 3 calls we're going to take. We've got time for 3, so don't fill it up anymore, Max, with callers. We'll have time, I'm sure, to come back to this. But the question, simply put, is how do you think the Terry situation will end? How do you want it to end? This is off of having John Keim on the show last hour. If you missed it, John was great. He's got a really good story out today on ESPN.com. You can always listen to the podcast of this show anywhere you get a podcast, plus the team980.com. Also, don't forget, when you listen to this show via the podcast, rate and review the show, especially on Apple and Spotify. Where you can give us up to 5 stars and write a quick 1 to 2 sentence review on Apple. Follow us as well. Just hit the plus button or the follow button on Apple and Spotify if you listen to this show by listening to the podcast of the show. John joined us in that second hour, late in the second hour, the 11 a.m. hour of the show. All right, let's go to James in College Park. Where do you think this will get resolved? How would you like to see it get resolved? James, go ahead. Thanks for holding.
Hi, Kevin. The way that I wish that it would be resolved is that I wish that Terry had done his research to see how those receivers that you all had talked about earlier in the show, how they ended up having to play for other teams because of age and production started to drop off.
Yeah.
I wish that there had never been any Eastern Motors press conference and that he had just gone ahead and taken a team-friendly deal because he could have extended his career much longer here as Jaden's right-hand man. The way I feel that it's going to end is just what you said. He's going to have to play this year under his contract. Next year, he's probably going to get franchised.
Okay, yeah, you're in that, thinking they won't get a deal and he'll play it out this year, and then they'll have the flexibility to tag him next year. And again, as I've pointed out for weeks now, that is a pay-as-you-go situation and a pay-less situation for the team. Ultimately, it is. It's a better layout for them. The only problem with that is that they don't have him in 2027 and beyond. But if they think a receiver entering his age 32 season is high risk anyway, and they're heavy on analytics when it comes to this, contracts, et cetera, that would be the way to go financially. But there's a lot more in play here. There's an emotional part, and I think it's going to get resolved with a contract extension. I think Terry's going to end up giving big time. He should take the 50 to 60 million guaranteed, because there's no guarantee he'll have that opportunity again at 31 or 32 years old. And I think the team, if they can get it done now, get him into camp, there's some benefit for having him here the rest of camp. Still, by the way, 3.5 weeks away from the season opener. Pete in Laurel. Pete, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, my answer is the same. I think it's going to happen. with the extension. I think, and I want it to happen with the extension. I think it's just going to be in the 9th hour for some strange reason, just before. I hope it happens this weekend, but I don't think so. But I think when it happens, we'll all be shocked. It could happen today, who knows?
Right.
But the question that I want to ask you is, man, how much do you think this rookie agent, I'm calling him a rookie agent, being Terry being his biggest fish, because these agents are selfish. They want to get a big deal. They want to get a great deal, so they become the super agent. How much do you think that's a factor in all this,
I think it's a factor. I do. I think that the DK Metcalf and being stuck on the DK Metcalf deal, if that's where they are, is a bit delusional. But at the same time, I'm not really fond of the team's opening offer if it was really 24 to 25 million. But with the idea that maybe they would settle on 28, 25 is not, necessarily a bad opening offer. But look, it's not a huge client list. He had Jeremy Chin here last year. Terry's deal that he got signed back in 2022 is easily the biggest deal this agent's ever done. And I'm sure he'd love to see another massive deal done, and maybe an over-the-market deal done. But this is not the team to get it done with. Not now, anyway.
No, it's not. But don't you think that could be a part of the holdup, though?
Of course it could be.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks,
I
Pete.
appreciate it. Great show,
Appreciate
man.
it. George, go ahead. Finish it up for us. Where do you want to see this thing end? How do you think it'll end?
Where I want to see this thing end is the team not giving them a contract extension, but rework the contract. 3 years. You backload, give them a 3-year, $95 million contract, but backload it. The first year, you give them a bump from 23 to 24. You do that so he'll tear up this contract for 23. 23 to 27, I mean. Next year, you give him a bump to 30. The last year, he's never going to see it. But hopefully, the bump from 23 to 27 is enough to get him in camp, not just in camp, but happy and participating. Because it's hard to think about somebody earning $23 million and being surly. But that's probably what's going to happen if he has to play for this contract, which is what I think is going to happen.
Right.
These two are staring at each other, and somebody's going to have to blink. And it's eventually going to have to be Terry to play for the $23 million. I don't know what posture Adam Peters is taking because we haven't had a press conference from him, but we know what posture Terry McLaurin is taking because he's had that press conference. He's going to be unhappy with $23 million.
All right. Thanks for the call, George. Appreciate it. By the way, the team put out today, if you're interested in this, their uniform schedule for the upcoming regular season. So they're going to wear their white jerseys in the opener against the Giants. They'll wear white at home against so they're going to wear their white at home against the Giants. That'll be the only time at home they wear their white jerseys, with the exception of the Super Bowl era jerseys, which of course are white, against Seattle, Denver, and Dallas. We knew that. We also knew, I told you before it became official today, several weeks ago, that they would wear their black jerseys against the Bears, their alternate blacks. The white jerseys, the normal white jerseys that they have now, the Commanders white in cranberry or whatever it is, they'll wear week 1 against the Giants and then also on the road against the Falcons, Chargers, Chiefs, Dolphins, Vikings, Giants, and Eagles. They'll wear their burgundy current Commanders jerseys at Green Bay week 2, early week 2, Thursday night, against the Raiders at home, the Cowboys on the road, the Lions at home, and the Eagles at home in week 16. So there you go, the uniform schedule for 2025. All right, we are done for the day. Good calls today. Really appreciate it. Thanks to John Keim for jumping on with us as well. Back tomorrow. Chris is up next.